pre-show and then their pre-interview predictions and all this stuff, and we we had to wait, and we all start and we are all lined up together.
But it was all worth it, if you ask me, because now we're going to be spawning into Oxide LE. We're in the bottom of the left-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way to the bottom left-hand corner. The red Terran player coming out from the Netherlands, representing Team Liquid. He is uThermal.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Oxide LE, we have the Spanish Terran player. He is blue, representing Alpha X. It is AqueroN.
Wait, is that how it's pronounced?
What?
I personally, I settled on AqueroN. But I don't actually know how it's pronounced.
I mean, that makes two of us. But yeah, finally we get to get into our first series of the day, the first of many. And like many of our series, they are kind of involving one player who can't get out of the group, but the other definitely can. So again, these series still do matter to at least one of them.
That they do. And of course, in this series, AqueroN, unfortunately, is our... There's a term that I don't quite remember, but he's basically a player who has no more hopes of advancing. uThermal, meanwhile, pretty much just has to win this series. Now, obviously, there's another series going on, the PvP between Hearthstem and DNS, that can change the results and will determine by how much uThermal needs to win the series by, whether it's 2-0 or 2-1, to determine whether or not he advances. But essentially, uThermal just has to focus on his side of the bracket.
Yeah, exactly. Exclamation mark brackets in the chat if you want to have a look at the Wikipedia page. Essentially, Hearthstem and uThermal are vying for that number 4 slot. So they both have to win, and depending on how well they win, then it will kind of determine who makes it through into the playoffs. So this is still kind of stressful to be in uThermal's shoes. Meanwhile, AqueroN, again, he can't win, but he can stop uThermal from advancing. We were in a very similar scenario this morning for DreamHack NA. Cristiano and I, we were lucky enough to cast Maples versus Neeb, and even though Maples was out of the tournament, he beat Neeb. We were like, oh god, it's crazy.
Yeah, and well, I guess a little bit of a difference is that Neeb technically isn't out yet, but his chances are significantly smaller.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be very close. Oh god, feels Neeb, man. But that is neither here or there. We're here in Europa, and so far, so good. You know, AqueroN, he was taking a little bit of a risk trying to go up that ramp. Thankfully, he didn't lose anything there.
Yeah, he was able to react quick enough and keep those Reapers alive. He's working on his defenses back at home with a Cyclone. It's really important to know because uThermal is going to be the aggressor in the early game.
Oh yeah, that he is, mate. We got 5 Reapers, we got 3 Hellions just rushing across the map. We are going to have a second Cyclone, but AqueroN, he's kind of split up between both his main and his natural. He doesn't have everything where he needs it to be.
That he does not. The Cyclone is looking mighty exposed. 2 of them should be able to chase this away, even with the best KD8 juggling. I'm not entirely convinced, but apparently it should be enough. uThermal proving me wrong.
Yeah, exactly. He does take down at least one of the Cyclones, but now the rest of the Marines are able to come down to the low ground. Oh, this Cyclone does need to be repaired. Oh, God! Ah!
But it doesn't, and with that, AqueroN's chances have just been significantly shot down. Only 3 Marines versus 4 Reapers that can self-heal and have KD8 charges on them.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, just the repairs just were not happening on either one of those Cyclones. The micro there, insane from uThermal. Still dealing more damage, still getting more SCVs.
Yeah, eventually AqueroN is going to clean this out, but 5 SCVs this early on? That can really snowball as the TBT goes on.
Yeah, exactly. On top of everything, he doesn't just... Well, I mean, I say doesn't just, mate. He killed both Cyclones. Like, the ability for AqueroN to, again, try and take away that... Well, take that map control and push out across the map, it's just not there anymore.
Even his third might get delayed. I say might. Thankfully, the medevac is going to keep that alive. And the Marines are going to deal with the Reaper. But if you look at the other side of the map, uThermal is already building up for his first push.
Yeah, exactly, and this is what's devastating, right? Because he severely weakened everything that AqueroN had, right? And not just, he wasn't just able to scout his opponent, but also, again, just almost reset that army supply. Sure, there is one tank. Wait, we got a Raven. We got 2 Ravens to deal with that, mate.
Pretty much. Both of them have a disable each. Okay, one of them is gonna have a disable pretty soon, but still. Still have to deal with the tank. I was about to say tank. Okay, there are 2 tanks. Only one that really, matters, though. Only one that's in position.
Yeah, the other is in the main base. Again, one of them could definitely come into play, but even though we have 2 tanks, we do have 2 Ravens. Ooh, but the Vikings come in. They're going to be able to zone these out.
Yeah, forces out a couple of auto turrets in a little bit of an awkward position. Now, uThermal doesn't have any medevacs, so he can't really juggle his Marines up the ramp.
Ugh. Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, the Ravens just barely survive for now. They are providing that high ground vision, and I guess the auto turret is dishing out some damage to the starport. But that energy wasn't necessarily used too efficiently there.
Yeah, there was definitely a real possibility for uThermal to have ended the game, I suppose, but he decided to be a little bit more cautious. He gets an add-on, he gets a supply depot, and he doesn't lose any of his units, so net positive in the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's a scenario there where, I mean, he did overextend with his Ravens, but maybe he overextended even more so, and then he would have lost his Ravens, and then that would have been a great way for AqueroN to really come back into this. Thankfully, uThermal does respect his opponent, and he does back off, right? Otherwise, he could have lost a lot more there, and he keeps all of his high-tech units alive.
Well, this stage in the late game, or this stage in the group, this late in the group stage, there we go. It's really not the time to be taking any risks, is it? Where even one map loss can determine whether or not you make it out.
You're not wrong. You were talking about it. Like, the map score of this series will matter for uThermal. Like, depending on how the other series plays out, like whether this is a 2-1 or a 2-0, that can definitely come into play.
And uThermal's definitely gonna do his best to make sure that it doesn't.
Exactly. Meanwhile, these tanks are looking insanely exposed. They immediately get disabled, and they're within range of the tanks of uThermal.
Just like so. I have to imagine that eventually AqueroN's going to overwhelm the Viking count. No, actually. Really good target firing from the side of uThermal. He's able to get air dominance and picks off a couple of tanks. Trying to rotate around. It's going to be a little bit tougher to break into this. Or not.
Well, again, there's just nothing to protect the tanks. Like, the Marines, they just strut forward. 2 more tanks go down, and AqueroN just doesn't have too much else left. Sure, he has tanks, which is great, but he doesn't have the Marines, he doesn't have the Hellions, he doesn't have anything else to support.
He really doesn't. GG is called, and uThermal, Mr. Mark Schlappy, is going to take game number 1.
GG does take that first step on making it out of these groups. But again, it's not all over yet. And personally, I'm a little bit surprised here because, again, AqueroN, he opened up relatively, I almost said standard, relatively safely.
Well, yeah.
When I personally, like, yo, when you're in this scenario, when you're in this position, your final series of the group stage, mate.
And you know that there's nothing. Yeah, you know that there's nothing left to lose. I mean, technically, with series wins, I believe, you do get a little bit. Yeah, with series wins, there's a little bit of a bounty, but yeah, I'm definitely with you that this is the time to throw out whatever. If there ever was a time.
Exactly. Like, you can, and not just that, but, you know, just be insanely aggressive, right? Like, there's a chance, especially as the aggressor, to maybe have your opponent slip up a little bit, maybe take a cheeky win, like, oh, you know, Maples did it.
Yeah, I guess I'm not all that surprised that uThermal was the aggressor. He does really like his Reaper Hellion builds in TBT. In fact, his one guide that he posted like 2 years ago is still the only thing I do in TBT to this day. But yeah, I'm not entirely surprised that uThermal was the aggressor that game, but as you were saying, I was kind of expecting something a little bit more active from AqueroN as well.
Yeah.
Like AqueroN wanted to play more reactive, and it's usually not how you want to go against a player like uThermal.
Yeah. But again, you know, that just may be his style overall, maybe just what he's comfortable with. But we'll see how that changes, because honestly, I'm a little bit surprised with how the vetoes turned out, and the fact that Game 2 is going to be it's going to be on Beckett Industries, mate.
Okay, I'll admit, I'm a little surprised too. But I'm happy that I see it. And speaking of being happy to see it, here we are on Beckett Industries LE. We're in the top right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner. We have the blue Terran player coming down from the land of Spain. He is going to be representing Alpha X. We have AqueroN.
Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Beckett Industries LE, we have the red Terran player representing Team Liquid. It is uThermal.
I was just starting to forget that was one of his names.
And whenever I think of mate uThermal, I just think of waifus. Like, I just
Hashtag not a weep.
Look, he put that on himself, man. All right, like he's the one who embraced the name for quite some time. Now that's all I think about. Ooh.
Second Rax coming up for uThermal. 2-Rax Reaper potentially.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, we were talking about it, right? Like, Beckett Industries, you know, you can do something crazy, you can be ultra aggressive here. Anything that you do does get across the map so much faster because of the speed zones, because the map itself is smaller. So, yeah, I appreciate this from uThermal. AqueroN, at least he is going for an SCV scout. At least he may spot this. Maybe, unlikely though. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. It all comes down to this SCV. uThermal doesn't have enough to throw out a supply depot yet. He doesn't have enough to throw out a supply depot yet.
Oh my!
He does just at the last second,
mate.
uThermal's SCV just shoved AqueroN's away. He was just about to body block that supply depot, but uThermal a split second faster.
Literally a split second, mate. And with that, AqueroN's in the dark. He doesn't know what kind of one-base play uThermal is going for. If it even is a one-base play, it could be a fake out. You know, it could be a fake out into a faster CC for all he knows. So he is now in the dark, and the Reapers are getting across the map.
Yeah, one Reaper misses the other. But now AqueroN should be wise to what uThermal's up to. Actually doesn't see the Reapers. Yeah. And he's not going in the main.
He doesn't see anything, mate. He just confirms that there's nothing on the low ground, turns back around. Oh god, AqueroN's in a really awkward position here. And uThermal, again, he now has 3 Reapers. He has the advantage, but he doesn't catch AqueroN's Reaper.
Yeah, unfortunately for uThermal, he was unaware of where AqueroN's Reaper was. Not going into the main base, I suppose. Kind of saved that Reaper, in a sense. But
yeah.
Will it save AqueroN in general?
We'll see. I mean, as you were saying, uThermal, he was actually just trying to catch the Reaper in the middle of the map. He did miss it, so now he's waiting for a second wave to really utilize this advantage. He doesn't want to throw away any Reapers needlessly to begin with. He wants to go for this one big push.
That he does as he continues to reinforce across the map. uThermal checking once again, but once more, the armies barely miss each other.
Oh my god, and now we're gonna end up in an awkward scenario where AqueroN is gonna be able to deny it. uThermal, he turns around!
Well, he kind of has to. He doesn't have enough of a defender's advantage to really chase that away. AqueroN is starting to turn around now, content with being able to delay uThermal's natural base.
God, he's trying to chase this down so hard. He's like, where are you? Come back, please. I just want to say hi. But now, enough time has passed where we have a Cyclone out at home to defend.
There is a Cyclone out, but it is only a single Cyclone. I was going to say the silver lining for uThermal is that he has been able to regroup with the rest of his Reapers. He has 9 of them versus the 3 of AqueroN, plus that 1 Cyclone, plus those 2 Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the Hellions could help out, but
yeah,
are they really going to make the difference? Maybe if uThermal lines up his Reapers?
It's definitely possible. We'll see as uThermal is finally going to show his hand. His massive Reaper army scans up the map. Oh my god, confirms everything. The boys are being pulled.
No! AqueroN comes to the low ground, but thankfully he does siege up his tank on the ramp. There's enough of a buffer to prevent uThermal from getting on top of that tank. Most of the infantry has been taken out from AqueroN and a bunch of SCVs as well, 6 of them. Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, uThermal was able to deal some economic damage, otherwise it would have been devastating for him. uThermal did have the worker disadvantage for the longest time there, but now he has been able to equal it up. Even it up.
Yeah, this is definitely damage uThermal had to do.
Yeah. Oof. And I'm sure, to be fair, I'm sure he wanted more with his opener.
Oh, definitely. That was a very dedicated opening. He was looking to potentially end the game as well, but yeah, that scouting force from AqueroN was just about enough to really keep uThermal on his toes. And as much as AqueroN, we were talking about how AqueroN really didn't know what uThermal was up to, uThermal didn't really know what AqueroN was up to either. As with that SCV scout, you can kind of guess, well, AqueroN's not going to be doing anything too cheeky. He's still going to be the defender, but you can never really be too sure.
Yeah, they're both a little bit in the dark, but again, more importantly than anything else, we're trying to catch each other. Or I say catch each other. uThermal was trying to catch AqueroN. AqueroN, his army movement, I have to commend him for it, right? Like, he was able to disturb uThermal's economy and avoid the army for the longest time. It was very impressive moves there.
Yeah, he led him on a wild goose chase for enough time to survive, and let's not forget, this is Beckett Industries. If AqueroN didn't do that, it would have taken mere seconds for uThermal to make it across the map and kill every single SCV.
Yeah, it really would have. So props to AqueroN for surviving that long. Meanwhile, yo, that's a lot of Vikings. I was about to say that I believe AqueroN was able to catch a glimpse of the Ravens, so he's trying to again intercept them and hunt them down. Thankfully though, uThermal recognizes this and he does keep his Ravens safe at home.
Man, AqueroN just doesn't like Ravens. Doesn't like using them, doesn't like when his opponents use them.
I mean, Ravens are pretty good.
They are, in fairness.
Yeah, so he's trying to catch them a little bit here. The moment hasn't been able to find them, but at least he has all these Vikings for later on. I love this. He's just, it's such an interesting composition that AqueroN is going for. Mass Vikings immediately into Liberators.
Yeah, well, you know you're going to be maintaining that air dominance for quite some time, so why not go into Liberators? Really force your opponent to play positionally. These two Ravens, though, are the wild card for uThermal.
God, that they are. uThermal has to be so careful with how he utilizes them if he's going to throw down a Dorito cannon or disable a couple of these tanks. In the end, both armies do siege up, and I don't believe neither one of them are in range of each other.
Yeah, not quite. This one Liberator is going to be very annoying. uThermal doesn't have any Vikings in the air right now. It's not producing any either.
Well, if he did, like, it wouldn't even matter. Just because of the Viking count. Meanwhile, uThermal is going in. The tanks are on siege. They get disabled.
Yeah, he sacrifices those Ravens, but throws down those auto turrets. That's the downside of going this Viking heavy this early on. You just don't have much of a buffer for your tanks unless you land the Vikings. And if you land the Vikings, you don't have the air control.
Exactly, and unfortunately, the goal there for AqueroN was to kill those Ravens before they got any spells off, and he failed at that. So because of that, the Ravens basically were useless. They did nothing there. The Ravens still got their full value, not just with the disables, but also with the auto turrets, and now uThermal, he has the momentum.
Yeah, no more Ravens for uThermal, but the damage has already been done. uThermal has more than enough momentum to keep this push going. He can even rally across the map if he so chose to.
Exactly, the boys are being pulled. We have a siege up with the Liberator, gets taken down immediately. We have a bunch of Vikings, but it doesn't even matter. GG gets called.